This is Gil from Final Siege, and you're watching Heavy New York! Heavy New York!
What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York. We are back in my house today, and today we're here with my good friend Gil of Final Siege.
Woo!
Great to have you here, man.
Thanks for having me, man. What's up, guys?
It's so awesome to have you here. I really, when I look back at the year 2021, I am going to think of Final Siege, March to Your Grave. It really seems like you were the band I regularly saw throughout the scene. The first question is March to Your Grave, the debut Final Siege album. I want to know what the thought process was going into this album. Was there a preconceived idea? How did March to Your Grave kind of see the light of day?
Yeah, so when we started in 2018, we just started writing songs, and we knew we wanted to make it kind of thematic in that sense. So we were kind of going with something for with rebellion against a corporate takeover kind of thing. We wanted it to be more of the people rising up, against a monarchy or anything like that, a futuristic dystopian kind of feature. So a lot of our songs tend to go back and forth. So our songs like I Defy is more of the rebellious type, while Democide is, getting the angle of the other end, So it's almost it's, I hope I don't get sued for this, it's almost Star Wars-ish in a sense, the rebellion against the Imperials kind of thing. So we were trying to tell a story of basically this a catalyst, this guy that was part of a military that that was just doing atrocities and just fighting wars that he just didn't want to be a part of. It was why were we here? What are we doing here, and who am I fighting for? What benefit do I get out of this? So he basically starts off on the wrong end and then switches over to we're gonna do an uprising kind of thing. So that's what March to Your Grave is.
Yeah, it's almost regardless if you're fighting for the queen or the slave, either way, we're all damned if we do.
Exactly. So it's kind of it's almost a coming to be kind of story. It's okay, I'm gonna be patriotic. I'm gonna fight for the right cause because this is the country I was born in. And it's not specifying anything. It's not talking about today's kind of issues in any country, whether it's here in the U.S. or anywhere else like South America, so on and so forth. It's more about just telling a story of we're fighting this cause because we're being oppressed. We're being oppressed by just horrible powers in charge and shit like that. So
when it came, did you think of this exact story before you started writing any songs and that helped influence the music, or did this concept sort of come to be as you were writing more and more?
Yeah, I think once we got the instrumentals down of each song, my lyrics came after that, and I just got a feel for each song. I say, what, I think this is the theme we should go with, and I think we all collectively said the same thing. My drummer Amir was actually the one that said, let's make it thematic, let's make it a story, that we can probably continue on. We'll see how it goes for this debut, and if it clicks, we'll keep going with it and make every album like that, or we'll just switch it up and just come up with different themes and so on and so forth. We try to hit multiple aspects, rebellion, uprising, but also the mental health as well. As Time Runs Out is basically a song about you're pretty much taken out. You were shot dead. You're lying on the ground. We painted a picture of it's dead of winter. His brigade is half gone, and there's nobody coming to help him, and all he's thinking is, what the fuck did I do? What was happening in this current moment, and is this where my fucking life ends on the battlefield, moments away? And then he just finds the strength and just gets up and goes and tries to keep crawling and fighting while his actual brigade comes back and picks him up. So that's the tail end of that song.
Mm-hmm. And was there almost maybe a little bit of research that went into the making of this concept, or has there ever, are any of the songs maybe reflective of you personally in a way?
We didn't really do any, well actually no, I can't say that. There was a little bit of research, when we looked up Democide, it was more of looking up, well, what kind of term means, you know, you're killing your own people, like as a country. Like if you're a person in power, a president, a king, or whatever, what's that called? And that's the term that came up, and it was actually coined, I think one of the first times, if I'm not mistaken, with Stalin, if I can remember that. That's what I saw with Google when Stalin was in power in Russia. It was like he was killing his own people on purpose, you know, and it was, for me, it was more like like mental fuckery. It's like, oh man, you know, it's like, how do you control people without just straight up shooting your entire country?
Killed his own son.
Exactly, you know what I mean? Like, so with Democide, I thought of like, you know, you don't necessarily have to do something forceful, but it can be kind of like sneaky, like you know, you can poison water supply or this or that. It's just basically fear tactics and making sure that no one within the country, like the poverty or anything like that, no one uprising to go, oh no, we need you, you need to save us, like please don't let us die, and so on and so forth. So that's pretty much the research we did on that song. Other songs, I mean, I made a little personal. Like for me, I Defy sticks with theme, but it's also something that I went through as like a teenager. You know, it was always rough for me as a teenager growing up. It wasn't until like adulthood that everything kind of started, you know, piecing together. But it was really hard growing up as a kid in New York here, like in the late '90s, early 2000s. You know, family was always an issue and shit like that. So, you know, when I started playing guitar and making music, it was like my gateway. Like that was my strength. You know, that was something that was gonna get me out of that situation and, you know, better my life versus like quitting or, you know, becoming a criminal or murderer or something like that. So, yeah.
And I'd imagine too, like, do you almost feel that like when you're, because when I watch you play live, like I could tell you're into it, like you're super like not there, and I mean that as a good way, you know what I mean? Like it almost seems like your spirit is on stage and whatnot. So do you almost feel that maybe like this character that you're portraying in the album is almost an extension of who you are?
Yeah, I could definitely see that for sure. I mean, for me, I definitely did put myself in that situation. Like if I had to, you know, become this kind of person to, you know, lead any kind of uprising or whatnot, like, you know, if we ever get to that dystopian kind of thing, I would never go to the other side. I'm like, ah, fuck that, we gotta, you know, save our own people and shit like that. But when I'm on stage, I definitely leave everything out there, you know. It's like, I feel absolutely alive. It takes me away from the mundane kind of day-to-day bullshit that, you know, I deal with, like with work or, you know, just pretty much anything like that. You know, it's just, it takes away from like all the bills and everything like that. It's just at that moment for 45 minutes or an hour, it's me and the crowd, and if I can connect with them and I see that they're connecting with me and they see that I'm actually like, holy shit, he's authentic, like he really does, you know, believe in his own music, then that means the world to me. You know, I'm not like looking to be this like rock star and posing like, you know, like, oh, I'm the shit and I'm gonna, you know, do whatever. It's like, no, I want you to hear my message. I want you to like hear what I'm playing and feel what I'm doing and like come back at me and go, that shit was fucking great. And that's all I can hope for.
And what, obviously you mentioned that you kind of want to explore this concept more in the future. Do you think you're going to maybe like experiment with your style a little bit more, or this kind of like thrashy style a little bit you're going to kind of stick with a little bit?
So funny enough, we are actually working on new music as we speak. We actually premiered a new song called Immurement. It's currently named that because of the song lyrics, you know, tend to deal with like torture, like you're actually just put in a wall. And it's more about like being in the mental state of, holy shit, this is where it's ending. I have no escape, no one can hear me. I'm just put in a wall and no one can hear me. And all it is just no food, no water, no sunlight. So now all of a sudden deliriousness kicks in, and I feel like that one may be a little more about like mental health. We may continue the story, we may continue it on like, okay, this is what he's probably feeling after, you know, the rebellion or anything like that. But as far as like the music itself, we've definitely taken a different route. I think everyone, or at least I hope everyone's gonna like it. It's like gonna be a lot faster, a lot more aggressive, and I think what we want to do is not just be considered a thrash metal band, but we want to also be considered like a death metal band as well. So a lot of the stuff is a little sludgier, a little slower. It still has that element of like thrash, that speed, but it's pretty much like all over the place. So hopefully the next album, everyone can feel that.
But no butt rocket.
No butt rock, no butt rock.
Yeah, never
Yeah,
seen
not
that.
yet. You know, we're not in our 50s yet.
Fair enough. But this question is kind of like the more cliche question, but like, because when I do watch Final Siege, I see elements of death metal, not just death metal, but all types, like whether it's Democide or At the Gates, or maybe even like more death-oriented stuff. Like I see, it's a smorgasbord of death, as I like to call it. But like, I do see elements of hardcore. Like I Defy I consider that a hardcore song.
Yep.
I just consider that a straight up sick of it all style hardcore song. But then, you know, like I see elements of sheer thrash in there as well. So really, what are the influences of Final Siege? Like, what kind of made you write this style?
So I know for myself, it was definitely Gojira, Sepultura, Slayer, Lamb of God, even a small portion of definitely Democide with the song Democide. I definitely just like Glenn and that whole pack is just, they're fucking sick. So they were like one of the first death metal bands I got into. But definitely everything I just named. I know there's some Megadeth in there as well for like some of my guys. For Randy, I know it's like Lamb of God, Children of Bodom, and things like that. So and Bodom is huge for me as well, which you will most likely hear in the next, you know, phase of like Final Siege, like either this album or the next one, depending on how we arrange the songs. During the pandemic, I wrote about 22 to 23 songs, and they're kind of all over the place. So some are heavier, some are more technical, some are more melodic, but there's definitely a lot of thrash in each one of them. So those are definitely like major influences on me for sure. Definitely Sepultura with my vocals. Even Joe from Gojira definitely influenced some of my vocals as well. I tried like clean singing on As Time Runs Out, and that definitely had to do with Joe and Gojira and their Magma album. So
hell yeah. And you kind of led me perfectly into the next question, because how do you know when a song is finished? Because I know that the final song, As Time Runs Out, right, it has like a 9.5 minute long song, and then you have, you know, I Defy, that's like more on like the 4-minute style. So at what point do you know like the song is like finished?
I think it depends on the feel, like what we're going for, you know, either what I'm going for or like what we all go for collectively. It's like, all right, do we think it's too long? Can we build it up even further? Is this going to be a little too boring, or is it going to be a little too simple? And I think at the end of the day, it just comes out with our drums. I think our drummer is our key point here. It's like what he does signifies like, all right, I think whatever he's doing, this should be it. You know, if he's like starting off groovy and just, you know, doing his thing, and then all of a sudden pounds the shit out of it, it's like, all right, right there, let's just end it right there, either on the spot or let it just kind of like fade away. So when it comes to writing, I have the drums in mind, and with my drummer now, it's funny, Amir and I just, we communicate without actually talking. I'll just write a song, I'll know what I want for the drums, he'll hear it, I won't say a thing to him. I say, here's a song, let me know what you come up with. He'll send it back a day or two later, and he's like, this is what I have. And literally from start to finish, I'm like, this fucking guy got it. I did maybe 1 or 2 tweaks, maybe do this a little differently, but perfect. Straight up.
Famous saying, if your drummer sucks, your band sucks. So it's good to have a drummer that's like very intricate like that.
Exactly. You know, with a lot of our writing, you know, I'll come up with a bunch of different ideas. I'll just come up with some rhythms, you know, record it, maybe think of a lead or two, but it's really not done until, you know, we're all in the studio and they all get to hear it, and then I get to hear them collectively and go, okay, maybe this should be a little longer, maybe this should be a little shorter, and things like that. But once we're in the studio for, who knows, like a handful of hours, like 3 or 4 hours, it's like, all right, I think we got it. I think this is good for now. And then once we got the lyrics, that's it. The song's over.
Hell yeah.
That's it.
And the final question I wanted to ask you is kind of going into the New York City scene. Good to see you represent another.
Yeah, Maniason, my boys. Check out Maniason.
Hell yeah.
Fucking guys.
Great guys.
Yeah,
great guys. And I see Ollie almost every single day.
Ollie's my dude.
Yep.
He's so great. And Chris just joined that band as well as the guitarist. Chris, so
that band just got 10 times funnier.
Yes, and also better as well. Just because of like his personality and everything like that. So before you get into your question, but Chris is almost like the
fifth wheel.
the fifth wheel of like Final Siege. You know, if we needed a drummer or a guitarist, like he steps in right away. You know, there was one time our drummer had an emergency and he had to like fly out like the next day, and we had a show 1 week prior. And obviously, as a new band, you don't want to like, you know, cancel, especially like on the local level. Nobody really knows who you are, and you don't want to seem like, oh, you know, they're unreliable or anything like that. So the one person I thought was like, Chris can do it, you know. And Chris, I saw Chris with our bassist George and Fiend X. They were like cover band, and they're fucking great. And you know, when I saw that he can do all types of covers and he mimics the drums like perfectly, I'm like, all right, I think he can do it. You know, I looked at Randy, I looked at George, I was like, I think this guy can do it. And sure enough, his work ethic is incredible. It is absolutely bananas. This kid learned, what did we have? 8 songs at that point? 8 or yeah, the whole album. We had all 8 songs, and we were only gonna play 7, and the kid learned all 7. Within like 6 days, not even a full week, like 6 days. We had 4 3-hour practices, and obviously the first one it was more like nerves, like it was a little nervous, but by the end of it, boom, had it. And like midway towards the week, I was like, we're golden. So anytime we need like a stand-in, it's like Chris is there. He's so fucking dope. And the fact is that he actually started out playing guitar. So now that he's in Maniason, like playing guitar, like his guitar work is incredible.
The death metal Dave Grohl.
Yep, exactly. The dude is fucking great. Yeah, man. Woo, my fucking guy.
But for like the New York City scene with, you know, great bands, like to see you guys and Solemn Vision and Maniason and everybody all, you know, really killing it, giving it their all. What is your take on the scene now? We got plenty of great new venues up on, you know, out of the woodwork right now. It almost seems like this is the place to be, right?
Oh, dude, it's incredible. Like, so what's funny is that I was in a band called Cruciation, like almost, what are we, 2021, 13 years ago, 2008, 7? Yeah, whatever that time was, a long time ago. But there was a lot of different bands that were there at the time, but it wasn't the same. It wasn't like a camaraderie that I'm seeing now, you know, back in the game in 2018. So yeah, the Solemn Vision boys gave us like our second show. That was the one that you actually hosted. Thank you for having us and for them as well. At the Delancey, that was pretty dope. But that's actually where we met Maniason as well. And like the moment, you know, I started talking with Ollie and them, I was like, dude, these guys are fucking dope. Like they're so cool. Newcomers Tombstoner, who started in 2019, and they played their first show with us, which is kind of funny. A mutual friend of ours, actually John from Magaspiece, was the one that hit me up. He was like, hey, my boys in Tombstoner, they're looking for a show. Do you think you can get on? Do you think they can get on that December show with you guys at Blackthorn? And I was like, I'm not running it, but I don't see why they couldn't. You know, the lineup was stacked. I think that one had Sick Bay, Malignancy. Actually, it's about to come up on, 2 years on the 14th? Yeah, on the 14th. I think it was like 2 years. But we had them, Nascentum, we had and Maniason as well. And it was just an incredible show. So when I heard Tombstone the first time, I was like, holy shit, like, these kids are fucking great. And they're like, you know, like they just fucking blew up out of nowhere. 2 sets of brothers. It's like, that's a perfect story, you know?
It seems like I think like Final Siege, Maniason, Tombstone, it almost seems like you guys are almost like the scene within the scene.
That's actually fucking dope. Yeah, you know, we actually all played a show together at knitting factory, and we had Lies Beneath as well. You know, like that was an incredible show. And you're right, like the scene is just, it's so big now. You know, it's big. There's a lot of different bands that, you know, we've played with, and I'm like, man, these guys are like really fucking cool, man. It's endless opportunities. Like, this should be hopefully like a new Bay Area thrash kind of scene, you know, when it was like starting in the 80s, where this band and this was playing here and so on and so forth. And it's like it should blossom from there between us, Tombstone and Niacin. You got Lies Beneath, Solemn Vision, you know, Viserion, black metal, you know, Nefariant as well. I mean, it's just, you got all different kinds of elements and genres that you can pretty much find everything here. So
except for butt rock.
Yeah, it's no butt rock. Thank God.
So before we go, I want to thank you so much for coming over to do this chat. One of the final interviews of the year. Is there just anything else with Final Siege that you'd like to promote in terms of when could we be getting some new music?
So we'll probably hopefully get some new music. I'm thinking maybe spring, summer, hopefully at least a single. Full album will probably be a year from now, once we arrange everything and everything like that. And, you know, we work pretty fast, so be on the lookout for that one.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Well, Gil, thanks so much. Everybody.
Dude, thank you so much, Alex. I appreciate it.
Gil of Final Siege. Check out March to Your Grave if you haven't already. We'll see you next time on Heavy New York.
Later, guys.